What if the forests of the late Cretaceous weren't shaped by climate alone, but by animals? Not predators, not disasters, but by herds of three-horned giants. Across ancient North America, Triceratops didn't just live in the forest, they transformed it. By following their migratory paths, we begin to uncover something remarkable. These mega herbivores may have been the primary architects of their ecosystems, reshaping landscapes through sheer force, movement, and appetite. Imagine standing in the dense undergrowth of Late Cretaceous Laramidia. The forest is thick, tangled, almost impenetrable. Then, something moves. A herd of Triceratops pushes forward, each individual weighing several tons. They don't step lightly. They don't need to. Saplings snap underfoot. Shrubs are crushed. Branches break as massive frills and horns press through vegetation. Their bodies are built low and wide, perfectly suited not just for feeding, but for clearing. The large frill, often thought of as display or defense, also functions as a physical barrier, forcing through dense plant growth like a living plow. Over time, these repeated movements, day after day, season after season, don't just disturb the forest, they reshape it. What begins as individual behavior becomes a landscape-scale force, a slow, relentless thinning of the undergrowth. Now shift forward in time. The forest looks different. Where once dense vegetation blocked out sunlight, gaps now open across the landscape. Light reaches the ground. This is no longer a closed, shadowed system. It is an open-growth forest. And at the center of this transformation is pressure. Constant grazing prevents young trees from maturing. Trampling disrupts root systems, and repeated herd movement ensures that no area remains untouched for long. Without the ability to form a dense canopy, the forest changes. Sunlight pours in, and with it, opportunity. New plants begin to dominate. Flowering plants, angiosperms, spread rapidly in these brighter conditions. Low shrubs and fast-growing species take hold. This isn't random. It's a direct ecological response to the presence of megaherbivores. The Triceratops aren't just consuming plants, they are deciding which plants survive. But their impact doesn't end with destruction. It continues through movement. Triceratops herds likely migrated, following seasonal resources across vast distances. And wherever they went, they carried nutrients with them. Massive quantities of plant material were consumed, processed, and returned to the alarde as waste. Fertilizer, but also something more. As they moved, they broke branches, stripped bark, and exposed plant tissue, accelerating decomposition. Fungi and microbes moved in. Decay sped up. Nutrients were released back into the soil faster than they otherwise would be. Over time, these migration routes became something extraordinary. Nutrient-rich corridors, highways of life. Along these paths, plant growth was stronger, more diverse, and smaller animals, herbivores, insects, early mammals, thrived in the wake of these giants. Today, new paleobotanical data allows us to trace these changes more precisely than ever before. By comparing fossilized plant distributions with ceratopsian population density, patterns begin to emerge. Certain plants decline in areas of heavy grazing. Others adapt and flourish. Some species evolve defenses, thicker leaves, spines, faster regrowth cycles. These are the survivors, the Triceratops-resistant plants. At the same time, slower-growing gymnosperms begin to disappear from heavily trafficked regions. They simply cannot keep up. In their place, flowering plants expand, taking advantage of disturbed, sunlit environments. This shift is profound. It marks a transition toward ecosystems that begin to resemble the plant communities we see today. And at the center of it all is pressure from a single group of animals. We often think of ecosystems as passive systems, shaped by climate, geology, and time. But this tells a different story. Here, animals are not just inhabitants, they are engineers. Triceratops herds didn't simply exist within their environment. They actively shaped it, physically, chemically, and biologically. They opened forests, redistributed nutrients, directed plant evolution, and created space for entire communities to thrive. To understand the full impact of Triceratops, we have to stop thinking about individuals and start thinking about herds. These weren't solitary animals moving quietly through the forest. They were groups, sometimes dozens strong, moving together across the landscape. And when a herd moves, the effect multiplies. Every step compounds the last. The ground is compressed repeatedly. Vegetation doesn't just bend, it collapses. Paths begin to form. Not temporary trails, but persistent roots carved into the ecosystem itself. These roots become predictable, reused, reinforced over generations. And over time, they transform into ecological corridors, zones where the environment is fundamentally different from the surrounding forest. Less dense, more open, more dynamic. In these corridors, light reaches the ground more easily. New plant life establishes itself, not randomly, but in response to repeated disturbance. The herd is no longer just interacting with the environment, it is reorganizing it. But Triceratops didn't just shape plants. They influenced predators as well. A single Triceratops is formidable. A herd is something else entirely. With forward-facing horns and a reinforced frill, they were built not just for feeding, but for defense. Predators approaching a herd would face a wall of horns, bodies, and coordinated movement. This changes behavior. Large predators must adapt, targeting the weak, the isolated, or avoiding the herd altogether. And that avoidance has consequences. Areas frequently occupied by herds become zones of reduced predation pressure for smaller animals. Herbivores, insects, and early mammals can exploit these safer spaces. In effect, Triceratops are not just shaping plant communities, they are redistributing risk across the ecosystem, creating pockets of relative safety simply by being present. The influence of Triceratops wasn't momentary. It accumulated over time, season after season, generation after generation. Their repeated movements didn't just alter the present landscape, they defined its long-term structure. Areas frequently traveled became locked into open growth states. Dense forests struggled to return. Plant communities stabilized around disturbance-tolerant species. This is ecosystem engineering at scale, not through intelligence or planning, but through consistent biological pressure. And when viewed across thousands of years, the result is unmistakable. A mosaic landscape, open corridors, patchy forests, sunlit clearings, all shaped by the repeated presence of a single genus. This kind of impact might seem extraordinary, but it isn't without precedent. Today, large herbivores continue to shape ecosystems in similar ways. Elephants, for example, push over trees, open dense woodlands, and create grasslands. Bison herds once carved migration paths across North America, influencing plant distribution and soil health. Even smaller herbivores, when present in large numbers, can reshape entire environments. Triceratops likely played a similar role, but at an even greater scale. Their size, combined with herd behavior, would have amplified their impact far beyond that of most modern species. They were not just part of the ecosystem, they were one of its primary driving forces. But even ecosystem architects have limits. Climate shifts, seasonal changes, resource scarcity, these factors still shaped the broader environment. Triceratops didn't control the system entirely. They operated within it. Yet their presence added a powerful layer of influence. Where they moved, conditions changed. Where they fed, ecosystems adapted. Where they migrated, life followed. They were not the sole force shaping the Cretaceous world, but they were among the most influential. So when we look back at the forests of ancient North America, we should not imagine a static wilderness. We should see motion, pressure, transformation. We should see herds moving across the land, breaking, feeding, trampling, reshaping. Not as destructive forces, but as creators of opportunity. Because in their wake came light, new growth, new species, new ecosystems. The Triceratops did not simply survive in their world. They helped define it. And in doing so, they left behind a legacy still visible in the structure of ecosystems today. Because sometimes, the architects of a landscape are not the forces we expect, but the ones that move through it, again, and again, and again. And there's still so much more to uncover about how prehistoric life shaped the world we know today. If you enjoyed this journey into deep time, consider subscribing to follow more stories like this. And let me know in the comments, what prehistoric ecosystem should we explore next?